Hello and welcome back to Degrassi School's In. This is a very special, iconic episode, so I figured we would do something special for it. We've got two special guests here today. One is Jocelyn Claiborne, the Degrassi Kid, and two is if you're in the video podcast, I have my little Funko Lola. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Degrassi CSI, one of our friends, for getting this little Lola Passini Funko Pop for me. Amazing. Anyway, let's get back to the guest. We've got Degrassi Kid here. Who else for the iconic episode It's Late?
Oh my God. I am quoted in the Wikipedia article for It's Late. I will claim that ownership.
That's because you are the Degrassi source.
Ooh, I like that.
I'm so glad that I could snag you for this episode. You totally didn't like bully me into.
I was gonna
Okay, not
say you didn't
bully.
have a choice. I said I'm doing this episode specifically. I have a lot to say. I've learned a lot about it. I've uncovered a lot about it. I've talked to Linda about this episode, and this is like the staple episode of Degrassi. I think if anyone's gonna learn their history about Degrassi, this is the episode to watch. And you've never seen it before.
And I've never seen it before. And we are doing something a little bit non-traditional with this episode. Usually I just come on after I've watched the episode and talk about what I what I witnessed. But instead for this episode, we're going to do something fun, and that is we are going to talk about what I know going into this episode. We've made a fun little list that we're going to discuss. And then we are going to watch the episode and come back and tell you what I think, tell you what I was right about, tell you what I was wrong about. And
Yeah.
I'm very excited for this. You and I already talked about this to build this list that we're going to talk about.
hmm
How do you feel about what I know and what I don't know before we get into it?
Whenever we were building this list, there was a lot of times that I went, "Oh, okay." Like there's questions that you've posed about the episode that I've never considered before, especially because when I watched Degrassi this era for the first time, I wasn't like thinking about what's coming next. I was just watching it. So it's interesting to hear what you do know about the episode and what you don't know and what kind of questions that has led you to. Do we want to dive in?
I just wanted to quickly say, like, yeah, this is like the episode that everybody talks about, and this contains like I would say the biggest spoiler that was kind of unavoidable, which is the first one that we're
Mm.
gonna get into. But I don't know really anything else about this episode other than this first spoiler that's on the list. That is Spike is 14 years old and ends up pregnant. And I know that the baby ends up being Emma Nelson, the next generation of
Crazy.
Degrassi. And then I know that the dad is Shane, who is a character that we don't really know that much about yet. I know that he's kind of been seen in the background and like talked a little bit. We haven't had like a focal point on Shane in Degrassi Junior High yet. And then I know the next generation episode where Emma goes and visits him. So I know a little bit
hmm
about like what happens to him later on, but I don't know anything else.
Yeah.
Like I have this the pieces that I have for Shane's character are Emma's dad and gets disabled in some way where he needs
Oh
to be
yeah, you don't
hospitalized later
know.
on. I've
Wow.
heard, but I don't know, like I've heard, I guess not trigger warning, but like spoiler warning, whatever. No, I won't even get into it. I've heard what happens,
hmm
but I don't know for sure. So we'll leave it at
Makes
that.
sense.
I've
Makes
heard
sense.
people talk about what happens, but I don't know. But yeah, I know Shane's the father, but that's about it.
I think what's really interesting about this is you're most familiar with Shane from Degrassi: The Next Generation. As we know, he has a different character in the original, so it's fun that you're going to be able to learn about him for the very first time.